Regulation coming to a close in some places quicker than others. San Francisco, a 27-14 win over the Buccaneers here at home. And the story in this one, Brock Purdy career performance, 21 of 25 for 333, 3 touchdowns and no interceptions. That is a perfect 158.3 passer rating. What is San Francisco's 7th win of the season? In studio alongside Ryan Wilson, Joe Musso here to dive into what we saw, and we saw a whole lot of Brock Purdy producing, and it all comes along this conversation we've had around the quarterback, specifically those 3 consecutive losses, Ryan. But he becomes the 3rd quarterback ever in Niners franchise history with a perfect passer rating, joining, I know you've heard of them, Steve Young and Joe Montana. What did you make of this performance, specifically in response to what we were talking about some 2 weeks ago?
Joe, I'm rarely right, but I actually feel pretty good about Brock Purdy, and I've been saying that for some time. The Browns game was the first of their 3-game losing streak. The weather was an issue, and the defense got absolutely shown up in that game. They had some injuries to deal with. Then the next game against Minnesota, we've talked about that, the situation at the end of the first half where Jordan Addison scored that touchdown on the 0 blitz. In that game, Brock Purdy played at a pretty high level. He made a lot of high-level throws. We saw the same thing in the subsequent week against the Bengals in a game they also lost. Had the interceptions at the end, but in totality, I felt comfortable where Brock Purdy was. I got the sense that Kyle Shanahan did as well. And since everyone's come back healthy, since the bye, they got their left tackle back. They got some guy named Deebo Samuel back, and they have been absolutely balling out on offense. The defense has played better. They gave up some plays today. But I think overall you feel pretty good about it. But you have to feel great about what you have in Brock Purdy. And I think the stat that I saw, and we can double check, he's faced first-round quarterbacks in 6 games. He is 5-1. The only loss was to some guy named Joe Burrow.
Yeah, not going to have to worry about Burrow even in Las Vegas this season with his year coming to a close, but Purdy performing as well as you could ask a quarterback to. Is this the moment that we move forward and we stop doing the if it wasn't for Brock Purdy, this would be the best team in the NFL thing that some people do? Is this the stamp of approval from general consensus that you can win the biggest of games with Brock Purdy?
I feel like that conversation should have ended probably a month ago, but a 3-game losing streak will get your attention. And there were legit questions, and don't misunderstand. I had concerns about this team, more so on offense and more so with the lack of Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel. But now that everyone's back, and again, just go back to the words that we hear Kyle Shanahan use when he talks about Brock Purdy in this offense. He seems unconcerned. There's a reason that they moved on from their previous quarterback because of injuries and because of inconsistency. And Brock Purdy came in relief of Trey Lance and looked like a grizzled veteran. We talk a lot about C.J. Stroud in that sense. Brock Purdy is operating this offense at the highest level, and I don't know if Kyle Shanahan would suggest that Jimmy G did it during that Super Bowl run at a better clip than what we're seeing Brock Purdy is, because I don't think he is, and I think they are winning because of Brock Purdy, not in spite of Brock Purdy. And if everyone's healthy, all systems are go, and this is one of the most dangerous teams in the NFL.
Whatever they did on that bye week, that should be the script for all quarterbacks. I believe I just saw it. 9 incompletions, sends for 600-plus yards, 6 touchdowns. It's been fantastic play these last 2 weeks out of Purdy. Now, there was a loss within this win, Ryan. Talanoa Hufanga, down with a non-contact knee injury, gets his own way to the blue tent, but then carted from the blue tent to the locker room. We don't have full reporting done yet on what that could be, but it does not look good. What does that back end look like defensively without Hufanga, the All-Pro from a year ago?
Yeah, and it's noteworthy that he is an All-Pro because he came out of USC as a day 3 pick, and the concern was lack of speed in the open field. He has been nothing but a playmaker at all 3 levels, and to lose him, and you talked about this earlier, Joe, in a secondary where those are the biggest issues already facing your defense, it's going to mean a lot more from the guys up front. The guy you acquired via right before the trade deadline in Chase Young, who you have in Nick Bosa, Fred Warner at the second level getting after it, and those players have to come together and make up for a potential loss. So we don't know yet what the extent of the injury is going to be for Hufanga, but he's incredibly important to what they do in the back end. He's a tone setter coming downhill against the run. We've seen him play consistently in the pass game on those throws downfield, and you hope he's okay, but when you see him needing to be helped to the locker room, that obviously is a concern. If there's a silver lining, it's what we just talked about here. Trent Williams is healthy, knock on wood. Deebo Samuel's healthy, knock on wood. Christian McCaffrey's getting healthier. He scored a touchdown after getting zeroed last week, was a huge storyline somehow. And Brock Purdy is playing out of his mind. So there are plenty of reasons for optimism, but you don't want to start losing guys in already the thinnest position on the team.
If you want to know what the total sum of those parts is, it's only 7.2 yards per pass with all 5 weapons on the field, those top 5 weapons for Purdy. Other side of the ball, 55% pressure rate with those 4 brand-name defensive linemen rushing the quarterback. I only offer that to ask you, and we don't have to power rate them, but we know San Francisco can play with just about everybody. But as you're looking at this NFC, pretty wide open, then we get to the top where we talk about the Lions, the Eagles, and this team right here. How do you situate here with 11 and in some cases 10 games of precedent to look back on?
I feel pretty good about this 49ers team, because we've talked week in and week out about the Eagles, that they have yet to hit their potential, and perhaps that comes on Monday night in that Super Bowl matchup with the Chiefs. But I think going into the 3-game losing streak with San Francisco before the injuries, there were very few concerns about that team. Maybe Brock Purdy was one of them, but we've seen him put his foot on the gas and quiet all doubters since that 3-game losing streak, since the bye. You talk about Detroit, and we talked about them earlier this afternoon when we did the highlights. They have a strong game, and then they limp into the next game, and sometimes they lose. That Ravens game to get the doors blown out, the Seahawks game to get the doors blown off at home. This, they were able to eke out a victory against your Chicago Bears. Can't say they're not laughing after a huge win last week. But you don't see that in the 49ers. It feels like week in and week out, when everyone's healthy, and that's what you have to hope to maintain that health, that they are the best team or one of the best teams, not only in the NFC, excuse me, but in the entirety of the NFL.
All right, that is obviously the conversation at the top. Let's get to the right side, at least here on CBS Sports, that in the hunt graphic
in the hunt, baby,
that so many are maligned to throughout the years. The Buccaneers seem destined for the tail end of that in the hunt graphic, 4-6 after this loss. But you look at the road ahead and it goes Colts, Panthers, Falcons, Packers before they get the Jags and the Saints. Winnable football games is the point I'm trying to make here, out in front of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Where are you at on them through? I mean, is this a team that should still be thinking playoffs or simply destined for in the hunt?
Yeah, no, they should be thinking playoffs. I'm hesitating because I'm looking at the teams in front of them. The Vikings and Josh Dobbs. Can Josh Dobbs keep the magic alive? And that's a fantastic story. Above them, the Seattle Seahawks. Geno Smith left earlier with an elbow injury. We'll see what the long-term lingering effects of that are. And then just outside the bubble, in the hunt, as you like to call it, Joe, you have a Falcons team that's going to go back to Des Ridder. Who are they? We don't know. Green Bay won today against a hapless Chargers team. Who are they? We don't really know. Is Jordan Love turning a corner? And then you have Washington, who lost to your Danny DeVito Giants. So it's wide open. You want to be in the NFC if you're going to be in the hunt in that graphic. And I like what Baker's done there. Their defense has been exposed 2 weeks in a row now. But they have a chance. Let's just leave it at that. They're not great shape. Could be in worse shape.
Yeah, they didn't get, to use your phrase here, their doors blown off. Now, they were competitive in moments in the second half, yes, but when you're looking at that schedule, it's more favorable than some. And over the last 90 seconds, you have attributed both the Chicago Bears and Tommy DeVito to me. I just want to clarify, I only claim those Chicago Bears, okay?
Fair enough.
Shout out to Tommy D for his moment in the sun
Forza Tommy D.
Sunday. Let's get back to the winning side of this matchup, that being the San Francisco 49ers, Ryan. The road ahead, the expectation is clear for them. Kyle Shanahan, this group, it's going to be an affirming moment at some point this season. It's almost dynastic what they've done short of winning any sort of championship.
It really is, yeah.
But when you look at it, does it almost get harder? Does the hill almost get steeper because of that matter? They know what it takes to get adjacent to championship, and they haven't been able to get over the hump. What is the characteristic of this team that makes you believe they might get over the hump this year?
It's going to sound cliche, but I think it's incredibly important to stay healthy. And a lot of teams, every single team in the NFL can tell you that lack of health has been a determining factor in how their season ends up. A lot of times, many of these teams, including the Cincinnati Bengals, we just talked about Joe Burrow, he is done for the season. Their season is effectively over. Kirk Cousins and Josh Dobbs are overcoming some of those obstacles. But in terms of the 49ers, if you keep Trent Williams at left tackle, if Deebo Samuel's there to complement the Brandon Ayuks, the Christian McCaffreys of the world, the George Kittles of the world, you have an opportunity to be successful, because I think the position you have to worry the least about, and this is going to sound sort of crazy in year two, is Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy shows up. He's going to throw with anticipation like he's been in the league for 10 or 15 years. He's incredibly accurate. He's a better athlete than we probably give him credit for. He can win with his legs, but he can also win inside the pocket behind the line of scrimmage. And he is incredibly tough. So I think all these things taken together, and if Kyle Shanahan can know that this quarterback is going to execute his offense, the sky's the limit, because you have Chase Young now. We'll see what happens with Hufanga. You have Javon Hargrave on the inside. You have Nick Bosa. You have Fred Warner, and the list goes on and on. This team is in fantastic position to to do the things that we've seen them do, but this time it feels like gets Kyle Shanahan that Super Bowl ring.
From irrelevance then to perfection now. Brock Purdy leading the way in another victory here for the 49ers. Ryan, thank you. Taking a look at some numbers out of this one. Most yards per attempt through 10-team games. Brock Purdy, 9.7.
Look at that list.
Yards per attempt. Yeah. You want to keep some company? Keep these guys. Boomer, Dante, 12. Brock Purdy trying to prove he belongs on that list this season as well.